Hey everybody, it's Eddie from Tokyo. This is your cryptocurrency update from Japan. And in this video, I'm going to pretty much recap the lecture that Mr. Kitao, the CEO of SBI, gave in his lecture at the FinSum event on the 3rd. I think there's been, some good coverage out there, but I want to make sure that you are getting all the points because I think there are a few that have not been covered in the West. First one, there is a fourth Megabank concept that Mr. Kitao is getting off and running, and I want to talk a little bit about that. Also, in this lecture, he talked about the overseas effort to use virtual currency XRP for remittances. Number 3, he is totally passionate about digital payments. He will endeavor to make trading commissions free for crypto assets. Yeah, he used the Robinhood app as an example. And 4, he aims to attract young people in their 20s and 30s to create a next generation. He's doing that with the T-Points card, which has 67 million registered users, and they're very, very active, and the demographics on that registered user list are quite young. 5, he talked about Corda and using Corda with its smart contracts to function in various fields. 6, SBI is going to be developing a system that works with deep-rooted Southeast Asian banks, a next-generation financial infrastructure. I want to talk a little bit about that. Of course, there's a lot of good coverage on MoneyTap, where they are using Ripple's technology and focusing on making this their flagship, the group's flagship product with XRP. And Mr. Kitao says they're going to have various relationships with Ripple in the US. I find that very interesting. And this alliance is very significant. And last, 8, US Ripple will also join as a MoneyTap shareholder. Okay, so let's take a look here. There is one article that came out that I think is very, very good. And if you haven't read CoinPost, which I recommend as a media source because they're careful and they're credible and they do usually a good job and they're fast. This is one of maybe the best articles out there that that sum it up in general. And also, too, I just want to highlight an AMB crypto because Namrata Shukla also wrote a pretty good article. I did see Alex Cobb's live stream and he did a good job. I listened to Jungle Inc. and his video. He did a great job. But I want to talk about 2 aspects that really aren't being covered in the West. And it's, I think, important for everyone to see, really, truly step back and see the big picture here. Well, this is a tiny summary from Coin Magazine. It's a media group here in Japan. And I just want to read you a little bit. It's probably much of the same of what you've already heard, but I just want to make sure, just in case. So SBI, when they send money overseas, they use XCurrent. And in the future, they're going to send money using the virtual currency XRP. SBI Remit, SBI Ripple Asia, and other banks in Southeast Asia that are closely related to the SBI Group. They're going to develop this collaborative system, and it will embody the not too distant future, this next generation financial infrastructure. So he is not stopping at the domestic borders of Japan. He is going to take this and roll it out in Southeast Asia in a big way. And as for the talk about MoneyTap, a money transfer app for smartphones that uses the Ripple technology, they're focusing on making MoneyTap the main product of the group. And SBI has various relationships with Ripple in the US, and they're planning to tie it together with this partnership, which is very significant. Okay, now, if you are really following Mr. Kitao, as I do, when you get on Twitter and you see things like people tweeting that Mr. Kitao has lots of promises with vague timelines, and he sounds more like a politician running an election campaign than a real businessman. I think to myself, I don't even want to tell you what I think. This is a man who has more than 49 business units in his holdings company. And he's in 20 countries. And I'm not talking about just addresses on a website. I'm talking about offices with staff in the most strategic places like Beijing, Shanghai, India, Abu Dhabi, Russia, the UAE. And he has just in 4 years, not even quite 4 years, he has created an ecosystem based on the digital asset. This is really good, where he talks about getting very close to completion of that ecosystem. This is a very important, actually, to the investors. Something he wrote on the 20th anniversary of the building, I think, of the business. It came out in January. I'm going to put a link to it in this description video because it is really very good. Now, I'm going to take you all the way back to May 2016. These are the humble beginnings. Yeah, look at it. This was the ecosystem at that time. SBI Group, Ripple, and then created this new entity, SBI Ripple Asia. And it was, of course, focusing on the foreign payments, and was going to bring in that Japan Bank Consortium. So this is the original concept of what was the beginning. And then you just bring it a year later, and you can see in 2017, the plan was to launch 8 new businesses, all related to virtual currency. So he was pursuing that synergy. You can see too, in the 8 businesses, I think the only one that's not realized so far is the derivatives. And we all know that is coming. And then let's bring it up to 2018. Look at this. This is a real business. These are not plans. These are all done. These are more than 20 business partners and entities that SBI has a majority shareholding in, and they all revolve around, you can see here, the digital asset holdings. So this has been built and created in just 3 years. It's amazing to me. That's why when he says he's going to do something, I believe him. And he is now approaching that completion. He's going to, of course, through SBI VC Trade, he's going to attract the institutional investor. And in the articles that are being written here in Japan, he wants to increase the actual demand for virtual currency. The US Ripple platform for remittances and the US R3 blockchain are going to be used. And SBI will proceed with asset-related initiatives. That is all in this article here, which he had with the banker. And SBI would like to establish joint ventures with each company, he says, and expand their technologies and services throughout Asia. So again, he's not just building something domestically. He has his eyes set on going and grabbing the market in all of Southeast Asia. So we did hear about this 4th Megabank concept. Actually, the first it was first revealed on August 16th, and he created a new joint holding company, named it the 4th Megabank Initiative. And this is all about bringing the regional banks together where they will collaborate. And this collaboration will allow them to expand not only nationwide, but overseas. The ultra low interest rates have just been a great strain on the small banks. 54 of the 106 local banks in Japan are in the red. So this is my words. He's going to take a bunch of guppies, all these little guppies that are out there, and he's going to make one big, massive shark. And he says in the articles that this is the starting point for supporting FinTech. And if you take a look here, the weapon that he's going to use is technology. So there's a fund that was created. It's the SBI FinTech Innovation Fund, and it'll be a fund used to create a new business model for banks. I think he has contributed 10 billion yen at the end of it, when all the people who are collaborating with him come together with an investment. It's going to be 100 billion yen fund. And we learned that as of the August 30th, there are a total of 36 banks that have joined in this SBI Regional Revitalization Asset Management Company. So I think it's really important to see his big vision picture and how he's going to take it. And as I showed you, in 3 years, he was able to build that ecosystem. And that ecosystem is it's not just SBI VC and MoneyTap. I don't want to just drag too far into this particular video to go into each business unit, but please do your own research, because I think if you do your own research, you'll never say that he sounds like a politician on a campaign. All right, so do I want to take you now to, yeah, we're going to move to a new story. And just please, always do your own research. Yeah, again, maybe I'll say it 3 times. Do your own research. All right, this is Koike-san. Koike-san is the governor of Tokyo. She's got an interesting background. She left Japan to study in Egypt back in the 70s, where she earned her degree in sociology from the Cairo University. She speaks fluent Arabic. She then came back to Japan and became a news anchor. She entered politics in 1992, and then she served as the environmental minister in 2003. She won the governorship as the first female ever to do so, and she ran as an independent, beating everyone by a large margin. Well, on the 3rd, she announced at the Tokyo Metropolitan Assembly that Tokyo is going to have its own digital currency. This is going to be able to be demonstrated or be ready to use by March 2020, very soon. And it's got an interesting twist to it. It's going to be given out in the form of points, or kind of like electric money. And it'll be given to people who make a social contribution. So what does that mean? Well, there are a couple examples given. One of the social contributions would be an environmental protection contribution, like if you carry your own shopping bag when you go shopping, then you might be then in line to receive some of these points in the form of a digital currency. Also, too, if you participate in a time lag commuting schedule to ease the commute rush, this is another example of how you might receive some of this virtual currency. We have a really intense, especially morning rush hour. It happens a little bit later than the West. When you're driving on the freeways in the United States, I think the traffic starts to pile up at 6 o'clock in the morning. At least it did on the West Coast in San Francisco, LA, Seattle, and Portland. But in Japan, it happens a little later, but the trains are just unbelievable. Traffic for cars is almost nothing because the infrastructure for public transportation is so good, but the trains are yikes. So there is going to be a push to get people to do this time lag commuting. And so if you can participate, you're going to also be part of that promotion to spread a cashless society, which is one of the initiatives that she has also embraced based on the government really pushing Japan to go more cashless. So they are going to spend, 100 million yen to create those points to begin with? I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see how successful it is. But I'm looking forward to it. These kind of initiatives, I think, are very fun and very exciting. All right, there is also an Australia Competition and Consumer Commission report that came out July 2019. This is the final report by the government agency. And I just want to tell you, Instarem, which is a Ripple partner, came out on top. And this is all about the cost of sending $200 in an international money transfer. And you can see here that it was comparing to 3 of the big banks. I'm sure Oz Crypto knows all of these names. These bottom 3 are part of the big 4 banks in Australia. There's Western Union, not doing so good. And TransferWise does pretty well, but Instarem's on top. So it takes the conversion rate with the upfront fee. And of course, if there is a correspondent banking fee, when you use Instarem, there isn't any correspondent banking fee. And yeah, you can see, look at the big bank, how expensive it is to do a correspondent banking relationship on just $200. You've got a $37 correspondent fee. Yeah, it just is not competitive at all. So the price in Australian dollars is 282, pretty good with Instarem, and then up to 344 with one of the big banks. So anyway, it's nice to see that the fees of a Ripple partner are at the top in terms of, you know, saving people money. It's great. All right, I'm going to give you your daily look at the Mexico Bitso Liquidity Index because I'm looking every day and I'm seeing that the volume for that corridor that went live with MoneyGram is still doing quite well. Yeah, so that's your daily look at that. And if you were so to see the video out there, which I'm not even going to name because it's not even worth naming, because it's not even close to being accurate, but you know, people just come off as if they know everything and that they are experts out there. And I'm going to tell you again, do your own research because they're not. I'm going to put a link to Galvatron's blog. It was written back in February 2018. Still very much applies to the mistruths and the reasons why all of the FUD is around XRP, and you're going to learn a lot from reading Galvatron's blog. In addition to that, if you think that anything's new with Jed selling his XRP, that has been happening for years. And so for those of us that know this ecosystem very well, it is what it is. And even when we had a speculative market in 2017, there was nothing could stop XRP from rising, even back then when we didn't have utility. And now that we have utility, we have someone like SBI moving forward, which I believe he will definitely realize his goals in utilizing XRP, not only with R3, but with Ripple and moving into Southeast Asia. His focus is to increase the demand of XRP. I read it, I took it from the article, and I believe it. And I do believe that Ripple is on the right track, step by step by step, building this ecosystem. We just have not seen a very strong speculative market among the altcoins as of late. So when people start to blame the programmatic sales or JED, I just think that they are not seeing the forest through the trees. And if you also believe people out there that are telling you that Ripple can freeze your coins, well, they are just so wrong. And matter of fact, even Roger Ver apologized because he was duped by a lot of that FUD out there. And this is a great site that is XRP Bingo. It's the FUD bingo, and it will really clear up some mistruths. And no, this isn't propaganda. This is this is the real thing with the real answers, and it is what it is. Okay, I am jumping to the fluff, everybody. So Rugby came to Japan back in 1874. This is a real etching that was on the Harper's magazine in 1874. And it's really interesting. You can see the people who are just out of the Edo period watching a game of rugby, probably thinking, wow, what is this? Well, we have the World Cup, and it's going to start, it kicks off on the 20th, next Friday. Japan is going to play Russia in that game. I can't wait. It's just, I'm a sports fan. And so it doesn't really matter. Any good game of anything is good for me to watch. I can't wait for the Rugby World Cup to start. And I want to show you that the rugby team is called the Brave Blossoms. Yeah. What a funny name, right? It seems like it's not really appropriate for rugby, but I want to show you they have created a brand new and radical jersey of the Brave Blossoms to wear as the global showpiece this year for this tournament. And it's cool. It's very cool. So, of course, it has the cherry blossoms on it. And I will show you some of the other designs too. It's inspired by the Bushido. Bushido is the honor code of the samurai way of life, and it reflects many of the details here. So it has the squared off V shapes, which are called fukigaeshi, and it's from the samurai helmets that were worn. It also has the motif of aoi, which is symbolic for speed, liveliness, and power. It has these gold flares, which represent the sun cresting over Mount Fuji. And it also has this kyoshi pattern, many different kyoshi patterns, which is good luck. And it has its force of speed and auspiciousness. So I think these are just fabulous. I love it. They are going to be very powerful in their new jerseys for sure. Okay, everybody. Yeah, do take care. Sayonara for now. Bye-bye.